So good morning everybody and welcome back to another film. I'd like to start this one by thanking all of you, of those that commented on my last film. Overwhelmed really by the amount of people that's commenting. Normally I pride myself on responding to all the comments that get placed on each video, but it's becoming quite a bit of a challenge, I can tell you. Normally I expect between 50 and 60 comments on a video, and the last one, when I last looked, was approaching 300 comments. So I've had to make the executive decision to try and respond to all the comments where people are asking questions, and but rest assured I read all comments and enjoy them very much. But I think I spent on the first video, not the one that you've just seen, the last one, but the one before that, I think I spent the best part of the whole weekend responding to comments, and I'm afraid that's just not sustainable. So yeah, the plan going forward is to respond wherever possible to all comments that are questions directed at a specific thing. So thank you all again so much for all your feedback. It's been absolutely overwhelming. So today's film is about standards. Many of the comments that I received recently are about my ability to see images where most people would simply walk by and miss them. And that got me thinking why that might be. And I've really got to take my mind back to 1998, where I was fortunate enough to get quite a high place in the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition, and that was one of my earliest successes in photography. And that really had a huge impact on my thought process in taking images, and from that day forward I've always strived to achieve that standard of photography. Now, one of the tools that I use, and I mentioned this on workshops and during on-demand sessions, is just only look at the high quality shots. Just keep focused on the big competitions, international and national, and just fill your mind full of images that are of that quality. But you have got to be careful that you don't end up in a situation where you're just emulating images that you've already seen. You've really got to use that, like I say, as a tool to move forward and create your own work. And that's essentially what I do. But a big part of that for me, and I've said this before, is just slowing down, taking your time and just absorbing the surroundings, enjoying the countryside and what nature has to give you. And in doing that you will start to see images, but the big thing is definitely absorb your brain with quality photography. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the lesser quality pictures, people are just starting out, but if you really want to grow, you've got to have that high standard. So today it'd be nice if I could find a good quality photograph. I'm not always expectant of them. In fact, I'm never expectant of them. Just do not take them for granted, because they don't come along that often. But it'd be nice to get something today. But equally, what I'm want to try and do today is find a shot that maybe some of you would consider, but then show you the reasons why I would disregard it. So let's see how we get on. So this is an excellent example of what to be wary of when you're out scouting looking for potential shots. This is a fungus called sulphur tuft, really common in the UK, grows in all sorts of woodland habitats, and of course when you see it you can't help to be drawn to it. Bright yellow, it's bound to draw you in as a photographer, but there are problems with it. I'm going to put a picture of it on the end that I've just taken now with that camera, but I'm just going to zoom in close and just talk you through the issues that are wrong with this and as to why you should probably leave it alone and go and look for something else. So it really is a case of where do I start? There's all sorts of things wrong with this as a potential subject. First of all, if you look at the caps, they're all very, very dry, and that's an indication that this mushroom is starting to age. It's been out quite a while. It's starting to dry out and rot down. Look at the tops here. You've got chunks missing where the slugs have been eating it. You've got caps missing there, another segment that's been knocked off there. Overall, a very, very untidy specimen. You're looking for pristine quality subjects for the photographs at that high level. Even the moss that runs through the centre here has started to brown off and is quite unsightly. And as I've said before, anything that doesn't add to the value of the photograph really doesn't have any place in the photograph. So in this instance, there's not a lot really of any value. But what is worth considering is that sometimes you'll find segments of the group which is actually in nice condition, and you can often go in close with the macro lens and just focus on a small section, but just be wary of including bits that really have no value to the overall scene. So I think I might be onto something of the standard that I'm generally trying to achieve when I'm out and about. So just here you can see there's a nice peaty pool, and all the birches have dropped many of their leaves already into the pool. It's just still as anything on the surface, and naturally I'm drawn to those leaves, those shapes and those colours, and my first idea was to come in pretty much at my feet and try and make an abstract of the leaves in the foreground. But I just felt that was fairly similar to what I've done before, and generally speaking I'm trying to create new images and not just repeat the same old thing over and over again. And especially I feel it's important for the channel to keep trying to create new types of shots. So what I've looked at since that initial thought was just further out. You can see there's a patch of light catching on the surface, and the temptation is to use a polarizer to remove that, but I'm actually going to try a shot with that included within it. So a fairly wide frame including all the leaves, but having that centre spot as the main interest to draw your eye into the scene. So I'll get the camera set up now and have a look and see how it feels. I normally go off a feeling when I compose an image. I get an idea when I'm standing here just looking at it, but as soon as the camera gets on it, I get this automatic feeling whether it's going to be a great shot or whether it's going to be something mediocre, and I probably need to just move on and find something else. So the camera is into position and I'm really quite happy with how it's looking. It's pretty much as I imagined it would be when I was just looking at the edge of the pond there. When I viewed through the camera, it's as I want it to be. I might just take a slight crop off the edges. I'm at the extreme of my focal range here at 160mm, but I'll just show you on the back of the camera how it's looking. So you can see that nice spot of light in the centre there, and it's almost creating a natural vignette to the outer edges of the frame, a darkening effect, so it draws your eye in. I do have one slight reservation, and that is because the camera's at 45-degree angle to the pond, it will clearly look as though it's been taken like that rather than being directly above, which is sometimes a more desirable position to be in when you're looking down at a pattern effect. Now, because of the problems with the light, if I was to get out in the middle of the pond, which I actually can't, but if I could and I was looking directly down on it, clearly my reflection would be in the centre spot, so it wouldn't work. So there is only one way of really taking this, and this is from the bank edge. In terms of settings, I'm on f16 and 1/4 second, and I've upped the ISO to 800. The reason for that is where the camera's positioned on the edge of the little pond here, it's quite spongy and bouncy, but equally, just a bit of a fail-safe is that I've got the remote release, so I can stand a couple of feet back while I take the image. So camera's on 2-second timer. I will put that on now. place to get to with a big bag on. So, sulphur tufts again. So I said earlier on that it's worth waiting and looking for the better specimens, and this is exactly what I've found here. Lovely, lovely group. Just the odd one or two caps that have caught the attention of the neighbouring slugs. But unlike the other one as well, the mosses surrounding the fungi is beautifully green. And there's a number of shots you could do with this. You could do an environmental woodland shot with a wide angle lens. You could go in nice and tight and close on just a segment of the fungi. You could even go underneath with a wide angle lens and point up and just underlight all the gills underneath. Lots of different options for something like this. I'm not going to have a go at it because I'm hoping I can find something that I haven't done before, but they are a good example of just holding out for the better specimens. I just love it when you find a potential shot that tells a story about the environment in which you find it. Just here, this point here, the tree bark starts and is normal from that point upwards. Below this point here, it's been stripped by browsing deer throughout the tree's history, and at this point, just where the transition is, there's real good evidence of the tree repairing itself, trying to survive, and the onslaught of the deer clearly feeding from it. But I just like the transition between the two areas. You've got the rough bark, and then you've got this almost coral-like, I suppose is the best way of describing it, coral-like textures. And we've got that contrast again that I talk about quite a lot. And I think that'll make a nice image. I wouldn't say tree bark particularly isn't always on my radar all the time, and I know last video I did a picture of bark, so maybe that's why it's still fresh in my mind, but that's really interesting, so I'm going to get a camera out and have a go at that. So it's been an interesting day today for me overall. I've obviously made some images as part of the film, but I've also been doing some experimental work which you haven't seen, and I just want to talk you through one of those images now. So I'll put the image on screen. This is a plant called Enchanter's Nightshade, and it's a woodland plant. It likes really deep shade, and I think it's one of the ancient woodland indicators. Now if you can see down the sides, you've got these little pods with little tiny hairs on the end of each pod. Now those, when they're backlit, as you can see, look really beautiful. But the image I had in my mind was a bit more detailed than this. I quite like the two stems with the pods, but sadly they're not in the plane of focus, and in order to get them in the right plane of focus, I had to lose the background information, the specular highlights, which really add to the effect of the image. I also wish there was some middle distance interest. This one has got a lot of interest in the foreground, and a lot of interest in the background to just make the whole image nice and easy on the eye, but that middle distance just seems lacking for me. So like I say, it's work in progress. So the final image is a bit like last week. I can never resist these type of shots. They're so nice, and I'm literally on a car park, and it's the end of the day. I'm on my way back to my van, and I just thought, what a great opportunity, because I don't have any uneven floor to deal with, and I can just get the camera right over the top of the subject and fire away a nice and simple shot. As you can see, silver birch leaves, and they're just falling on the tarmac, and I found a nice composition which I think is really complementary. I've got a polarizer on just to remove any reflected light, because it's quite bright coming in from behind this camera, and yeah, I will actually show you the composition. I think it's worthwhile doing that before I take it. So there we have the image, very, very simple, straightforward, lots of repetition, nice abstract, lovely autumnal scene. Interestingly, I've just noticed that whilst I thought it was all silver birches in this, the leaf in the middle there, which is obviously green, the reason it's green is it's a different leaf. It's actually a willow leaf. So that makes for a bit more of an interest within the whole composition. I also like the little birch leaf on the left here, the one with the green dots on it, how that leads through with this green one on the diagonal that I've placed, and it probably also matches up with the one on the top right as well, so you've got a bit of a diagonal in there, but overall much repetition throughout the scene, but lots of textures and tones, really nice. If you're interested in the settings, this is at f16 just to maximise the depth of field. There isn't really a huge issue with depth of field, it's just that between the tops of the leaves and the bottoms of them where they're on the carpet, there might just be a little bit of distance involved that I need to make sure that's in sharp focus. ISO 100, and to be honest I'm not really sure what the shutter speed is, 1/8 of a second, so I'll put that on now. So that's it from me for today, folks. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of today's images, and let's keep those subscriptions coming. So until next time, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.